Call to order the Overtop Facility Board, May the 1st. You have a set of minutes in front of you from April. I'll entertain a motion to approve them when you're ready.
So moved. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone here wishing to speak before the Solid Waste Board today? Step forward, state your name and address for the record. Seeing nobody, we will close that public comment period and we'll move on to the legal report. Mayor Jennings.
I don't have anything.
We'll go to Solid Waste report. Ms. Cindy Lynch.
Okay, I think everybody's got a copy of the report in front of them. The second page is the landfill activity report. Rockwood brought us a little over 57,000 last month for the month of April. Our fiscal year to date, we're up 423,000. But let me go ahead and tell you the bad news. We have had to suspend operations with Rockwood right now. We have 2 monitoring wells that have taken hits. So we're waiting on the state for a course of action. They're probably going to put us in assessment monitoring. And we think, the engineer really thinks that what's causing this is gypsum, wood, and drywall. And what they do is when Rockwood gets our material, they crush it into 1 and 2 inch pieces. So we're thinking bigger material, not crushing it that big, will help us as far as the monitoring wells. So what we're having to do now is bring our open tops out to the landfill, which means more time, more fuel. So we're back to where we were square one before Rockwood started bringing us the revenue. So we have suspended everything with them and trying to come up with a course of action for the state to approve in Rockwood. So there won't be any more revenue coming from Rockwood for a while.
So tell me how does the monitoring wells distinguish between a 2-inch piece of wood and a...
What we think it is it's such small material and it's crushed down so much that it's affecting the monitoring wells with some volatile chemicals. And we're thinking more than likely it's probably the gypsum wood and the drywall. And you've got to remember all the dust and stuff that comes with those 2 items.
So the monitor, it checks for, because it's not a change, it's not a different chemical that you're putting in there, but
No.
But if something, the chemical is what triggers that monitoring well? It
does. It gets into the underwater the groundwater. And so we're kind of, you know, it's going to be a real hit to us for a while.
You're pretty sure it's Rockwood?
It is. We've checked everything. We started Rockwood October of last year, and we're pretty sure that's what it is. The engineers are doing some studies on it. So we are going to get with the state. We're going to be proactive instead of reactive. We're not waiting on the state to come in and, you know, so we're going to be proactive. So we're running these extra tests. And more than likely what they're going to do is put us in what they call assessment monitoring. And it's just 2, we've got 20-something wells out there, and it's just 2 wells, and it's right where Rockwood, where we've been dumping it.
So when you quit letting them do that and the wells clear up, then you'll know that's what it was?
We're hoping it'll clear up, or the amounts will drop down at least.
Okay.
But you've got to remember our open tops, it's the same material.
Yeah.
It's crazy the way it sounds, but technically probably that with that gypsum wood and that drywall, it probably needs to go to a class 1 landfill. So we're probably going to have to, you know, we'll see. I don't know how long this monitoring will take, how long the assessment monitoring. Usually it's 6 months to a year, so.
Yeah.
So I may.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I know. I found a good resource, and then it just hit us. We were nervous about it, and then it just hit us this past month. So we'll be testing our monitoring wells more frequently now, especially those 2.
Okay.
So right now everything is suspended with Rockwood. They're still taking our cardboard and plastics and electronics. So we're still paying them and they're paying us for the cardboard. So.
Okay.
That's what's going on with that. So you'll see like a big drop next month in the revenue. The next page is collections and hauling report. You see we've hauled about the same amount that we did last year in April to Smith County landfill. Next page is your recycling report. Revenue was up about $2,480 over the same time last year, but our recycling materials, the price of them are fixing to go down. Newspaper, cardboard, and metal have all gone down. They've taken big hits in the market. So that will probably go down also. And I will tell you this, we are getting hit very hard with Rutherford County, Sumner County, and Davidson County. Trash and couches and mattresses, it's almost at the point where we can't keep up. So we need to probably start looking at lowering the limits on what we can take at the convenience centers. Because technically, the past month, we probably could have doubled the amount of drivers we've got with that many loads. Because Rutherford County don't take big bulky items on the weekends. Davidson County's not taking them at all. In Sumner County, they'll shut down. They won't take it from residents now. Where they had that fire, they're kind of picking and choosing who they take. So we're getting hit with those three counties. And we can stop them, we can tell them, hey, you can't dump here. They're gonna find a way to get in with the items.
Okay.
So. And the last thing I had, the Lebanon City, Lebanon Spring cleanup ended. They ran 23 loads, 552 yards, and it was about $9,936 worth of value on it.
Can you give me those figures again?
23 loads, 552 yards, $9,936 in value.
Okay,
Which is, it's close to what it was last year, maybe off a yard, a load or two.
thanks.
But that's all I have unless you have any questions.
Any questions, Ms. Cindy? Hear a motion to approve the report?
So moved. Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. Any new business?
Mayor, can I say something?
Yes, sir.
Probably self-serving, but I'll share with you. I was at the county attorney's meeting last Thursday and Friday and Saturday, and we had a segment on landfills. And just about every county that was represented there has access to a contracted landfill, you know, like Rutherford County or whatever. And to hear some of the problems they're facing, and then to hear what we have, I mean, what Cindy has identified this morning, the two issues are pretty minor compared to what these other places are going through. We're so fortunate to have that landfill here where we can take care of our own problems without having to deal with the big boys. But I just sat there and listened because, you know, everything they brought up, I thought, we don't have that problem.
Yeah.
So,
And then she has the ace in the hole with the permit if we ever have to go to it, and
that's right.
That's a positive thing too. So setting well. Somebody will cash in one of these years, but it's a good thing to have a backup. And so yeah, we're
And,
blessed.
you know, it doesn't sound entirely appropriate, but trash may be one of the best assets we've got in the county because of the way we can handle it.
Mhm.
And so anyway, I just thought I'd share that.
Okay. Any other new business?
Could we charge other counties? Well, I mean, if we caught Sumner County dumping, could we charge for a load? I mean, if we put it in our, we're a legislative body. I mean, if the county wanted to, do we have the authority to do something like that?
We refer them to the landfill now. So, you know, if we catch a large load or a commercial vendor, we send them to the landfill
At the convenience center.
at the convenience center. But now, you know, whether they make it out there is, you know, hit or miss.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Any old business? Stormwater delegation, anyone here to speak before the Stormwater Board today? Stormwater Director's report, Mr. James Vaden.
Okay, you got your report in your package. You can see your March numbers below. We're about on average what we were doing last March on the numbers. We did complete our Think Green, Think Clean, April the 26th. We had 4 county schools participate, and we had 592 children that signed up and collected 617 bags of trash. So that was a success, and we appreciate that event. This was our 15th annual event, so we've kept this running for 15 years. In your package, we've got like a synopsis of what we've done for the tracts over 5 acres, and I brought one of our consulting engineers to talk to you guys about that, on where we're at and how we got there. Jerry, you want to address the board?
Yes.
Good morning, gentlemen. Jerry Warren with Warren Total Civil Engineering, for the record. As James said, we're consultant engineers. We work with stormwater a lot. We also do other work with the county. But one of the things that's been going on in Wilson County is there have been, it's an increasing number of, I'm gonna just call them large properties. They're over 5 acres. Because they're over 5 acres, they don't go through the planning process with the planning department because that's state law. And we understand that. We don't argue about that because that's state law. What's happening from the stormwater side and from the county side is there's more and more people building on these larger lots because a lot of folks are moving into Wilson County. They like a piece of land out in the country. Most of the time that's over 5 acres, 5, 10, 20 acres. Some of these are older lots that have been there for a while when there were no real regulations at all. Some of them are newer lots that have, where property has been divided by survey. It's been auctioned off, it's been sold off for whatever reason. But when these folks are coming in for building permits, they get ready to build. If they have an older piece of property or if they've bought a new piece of property, they're gonna need a building permit. In order to get that building permit, they have to get a stormwater review. When stormwater gets the building permit application, that's when things start to get interesting. Because a lot of these larger tracts, and y'all driven by and seen them, I mean, you go out in the country, a lot of tracts will cross a creek or a stream to get to what would probably be a better building site or maybe to get to a better soils site. Some of them have steep slopes. I've seen some that just about go straight up. Some of them may have flat slopes. They may be down in creek bottoms, what have you. Some of them may be covered up with sinkholes. It's kind of a common item here in Wilson County. They could be if they're adjacent to a stream in a flood zone or in an area that might be prone to flooding. So to summarize all of that, then stormwater gets to tell folks when they come in to get a building permit, you need to do a little bit more. You may need another permit. You may need an aquatic resources alteration permit to cross a stream. You need a critical lot permit because it's steep slopes or what have you. A lot of the property owners are not aware of these needs or these requirements. And they're not prepared for that time and that cost that may be involved in that. And I just kind of wrote down a couple of things here. I mean, a lot of them are upset. A lot of them are concerned. Nobody's told them that. I have to do what? Well, we didn't think we had to do that here. And then they want to get upset with James. They want to call the mayor. They want some relief. And to address this issue, stormwater and planning have been kind of going through the existing regulations, the ordinances, what have you, everything that the county has to try to address this, to develop a solution. So after multiple meetings, discussions, reviewed the permits, reviewed the ordinances, the existing stormwater ordinance, the stormwater, there's a MS4 permit that the county has. Draft language has been developed kind of in connection with several county departments to put on, I'm going to call them boundary surveys or plats for properties that are over 5 acres. You'll see a lot of these when somebody's dividing up, say, a 100-acre farm into 5, 10, 20 lots, what have you. They're generally over 5 acres. If the lots are less than 5 acres, they're going to go through the planning process. So if there's any issues, that will get caught while it's going through the planning process. And when I say get called, it'll be identified, and the lot will be marked as it's a critical lot, or if it's got a blue line stream, or what have you, that they'll know that something is needed there. But if it's a tract that it has a couple of small lots on the front and bigger lots, yes, sir.
So if it's a smaller than 5 acres, it goes to the planning commission,
Yes, sir.
and that's when they know.
That's
That's
correct.
when they're told, okay? But at the same time, I'm still dealing with the same person because they've already bought the land.
It
So
depends.
So the planning commission tells them, I got you, instead of James telling them, I got you. But at the end of the day, I'm still back here with the same problem. I
Yes,
bought a
sir.
piece of land, coming to the planning commission, can I do this? Well, no, you gotta do this, this, and this. So I really have the same problem, and what I'm trying to avoid is, I don't wanna be the planning commission, because James becomes the planning commission when he says, hey, here's what you gotta do, right?
That's well said.
Yeah.
Because it's a matter of when is it identified?
Yeah,
And when are people made aware of it?
yeah.
On the smaller lots, it is identified in the planning and stormwater review process that goes on prior to the planning commission reviewing and/or approving that plat.
Both of them are gotchas though.
Yes, they are. And what we're trying to come up with is a way to just make people aware. And we've heard the comment, you know, and this has been utilized, not disagreeing with it, the buyer has to know what they're buying. I understand that, but sometimes it helps to give them a little more information. Yes, sir.
Do you subcontract for other counties?
We have worked for other counties in the past, yes, sir.
Or how are other counties? Are you aware of any other counties that are addressing this problem already?
In this situation, the other counties that we worked for previously have been rural counties, and the rural counties, the smaller counties, do not have an MS4 permit like Wilson County has.
Yeah.
So it's, there's only like, what is it, James, 20 in the state of Tennessee.
So
Yeah.
you haven't. you don't
No,
have
sir,
any
out in,
business.
I'm gonna call it country counties,
Gotcha.
it's handled a little different. But this has come up, I know James has had these questions, Mayor, you've had these questions. So some draft language was developed. Well, some of that draft language was communicated out to surveyors and some folks in the development community. They had some concerns about it. And I understand that. It's a little bit different. So we had a meeting. Yes, sir.
So when I know we all had a meeting and talked to some of those people, what is their concern, from their point of view, if what you're trying to do is notify the buyer before you buy, hey, you're gonna have to have some steps to go through, that's what we're trying to accomplish.
Yes, sir.
And you wanna make sure they know, and what we got here is, hey, we'll stick this on the boundary survey, so if they actually pull the boundary survey and look at it, they might read this, they might not, but they might read this.
Yes.
And does that, so my developer, why does that bother them, or why would they be concerned that we would do this or asked to do this? And I know Mike has said, number one, we gotta have, by law, we gotta be able to do that. James says on his side, well, because we're an MS4 county, that's what gives me the right to do it. Mike's still looking forward to TCA, I think, to see if we can do it. But why does a developer say, I don't want you doing this?
Well, there's, and these are my opinions, my thoughts
Yeah.
based on comments that I've heard. One is it's different. We hadn't had to do that before. That's a comment that gets made. Anything different is automatically,
Always, yeah.
it's just different, so that's not good. But the comment that gets made a lot is, as you just said, there is a Tennessee Code Annotated, TCA, law regarding planning and subdivisions, and that gets quoted a lot. And look, we work for private developers and private property owners in other places, and I get it. That requires, if you're dividing property and it's being divided into lots or tracts are over 5 acres. According to that TCA law, that is not considered a subdivision.
And the MS4 doesn't override that,
That is, I won't say that.
okay?
That's the law according to planning.
Yep.
Now, the other part of that, the laws that apply to the county, you've got the planning laws. And now, I'm starting to talk about laws and I'm getting a little bit out of my lane, but
I'm glad to have the help. Go ahead.
well, maybe, maybe not, but the TCA for the environmental permits is also on the books, and that applies to Wilson County.
Sorry, one more question.
Yes, sir.
That MS4 is not something that's optional for me. It's
It's
something that I
mandated.
must do.
Federal mandate.
It's not like we just want to
Clean
come up with
Water
some
Act.
extra rules, and
Yes,
be
sir.
extra green here. That's a law.
Yes, sir,
Okay.
100%.
So these laws conflict.
They
No.
don't conflict.
We're not planning. We're stormwater, environmental. That's the difference.
But
We
you're
have a
saying that-
TCA that addresses environmental law.
But it says I gotta go to that, but my other law contradicts it, is I don't have to?
This-
Well, no, that's the
supplement.
planning department that does not have to. It does not account for the environmental law. It does not trump the federal law.
The
From-
planning law was in place decades before any of this stormwater.
Yes,
It was
sir.
mandated on cities and counties, and it was mandated.
So why does it override it?
I don't know that it
And
is.
we'll let Jerry finish, because we did have a great,
Go ahead.
I don't
meeting.
think, it doesn't override it, it supplements it. Both of these laws, the way that we see it and the way that they are written, both of them apply to the county. Both of them apply to different areas. The planning laws and rules apply to subdivisions of property that are less than 5 acres. That's the way that's written. The environmental laws apply to all pieces of property. The way it's written, they say, and I'm gonna go on down, it refers to in the stormwater ordinance and the MS4 permit, it defines a common plan of development. That common plan of development means any announcement or documentation, including a sign, public notice or hearing, sales pitch, advertisement, drawing, permit application, zoning request, computer design, or physical demarcation, including boundary signs, lot stakes, surveyor markings, indicating construction activities may occur on a specific plot.
May,
May. It does not say they have to, but they may occur. A common plan of development or sale identifies a situation where multiple areas of disturbance are occurring on contiguous areas or adjacent areas. This applies because activities may take place at different times, different schedules, at different operators or owners. Now that's from the definition. I didn't make that up, James didn't make that up, somebody else did. But we discussed this in our meeting at the mayor's office a couple of weeks ago, I think. From that meeting, James was tasked with, and we contacted TDEC and CTAS
an MTS.
and MTAS to get some help, get some interpretation on things. And from that, we had a Teams meeting. Some of us were there in person, some were dialing in. But there were 2 representatives from CTAS, Kim Rea and Tom Brashear. Y'all may be familiar with that name.
And John Clarkson.
And John Clarkson from MTAS. While the discussion was going on, and we went through the wording in the permits, John Clarkson said, well, we need to run this by TDEC. And he actually called Ann Morbit, who I'm the assistant director.
She's one of the deputy directors.
Deputy director, I used the wrong term. She's a lot higher than we are. But fortunately, he was able to get her on the phone, and she joined the conference call. And we went through the language, the things that we were looking at in the ordinances and permits. And I don't want to put words in her mouth, but what she said was, it sounds as if y'all are on the right track. I may have misspoken that just a little bit, but I think that's a short summary. So, yes, sir.
So when he asked other people that you've dealt with, and you said, well, I deal with rural counties that don't have MS4, what about other counties that have MS4s? Have you talked to them, and do they have something similar to this?
I've reached out to, and Christopher has reached out to several counties and got some feedback. And were you copied on that email, Jerry?
I think I was, yes, sir. There have been a couple of other counties that have been looking at this same issue.
Anybody done it yet?
No, sir. My understanding is there's one county up in, East Tennessee?
They have a signature block on theirs.
Sullivan County, they were requiring a signature block. And I think they,
Who signs that? The person
Stormwater.
that buys or something?
I think that whoever is responsible for the stormwater, their technical review person would be required to sign that. And I haven't seen that block. I'm kind of flying a little bit loose on that one. But
Again, we're going back to trying to notify the
Yes, sir.
person that's going to buy the property.
And-
That's our goal, right?
And this is the issues we're running into, I say we, Wilson County, it's statewide with larger tracts of property, particularly in the MS4 areas. But my understanding is that in that county, when they were talking about it, they had a lot of pushback from the development community, that they were against it. They didn't want to see additional notes or requirements. To try to simplify that, what was discussed in our meeting with CTAS and MTAS and TDEC was a simple note to add to the boundary surveys, and y'all have that there in front of you. Not requiring anybody to sign off on it from county standpoint or planning standpoint, stormwater standpoint. This is merely an attempt for awareness to make the person who's buying property, who may be moving here from some other location, California, New York, Illinois, pick one. We've got people coming from a lot of directions because we have a lot to offer. We can't make folks read it, but we can say that it's on there, and there's some awareness. Now, again, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but in the previous meeting that we had in your office, that some of the representatives of development community made mention that they didn't have an issue with a note on a survey. And some of them, I think they even said that, sometimes they would read something out, like in an auction situation. They would read it ahead of time. And that seems to me that would help. It would help them meet their requirements for disclosure, and it would help to bring on awareness from a stormwater and an environmental permitting standpoint, so that you won't stop all of it, but we can try to make as many people as possible aware that these issues are going to come up.
So kind of where we are is maybe we reconvene that group on that particular side. Our board reviews this, and then we get back together next month to consider next steps.
Well, yeah, so let me break a little more. Christopher at the planning, he was in our meeting also and he has agreed to get with the Register of Deeds, come up with a standard operating procedure. We'll take this draft, If nobody's got any comments, and we've sent this to the state and they've reviewed it. I'm still waiting to hear back from Miss Ann, but if we don't have any red flags, you know, what I would do is we would post this in the Register of Deeds. This would be a requirement for all boundaries to be on the plat. There's no signature requirement from stormwater. And this pretty much lays out what would be needed when they come, if they decide to build a permit. If they don't develop the lot and buy it to hunt on, they're never building a structure, none of these things would be an issue, other than a blue line stream. If they have to build a bridge or a creek crossing, you know, that's a state and county permit requirement. So this identifies those areas, and I think we've got a process now set up to get it on the plat, on all boundaries.
Without a signature?
Without a
anybody
signature, right.
responsible to
And
sign.
this would be a requirement. She would not record a boundary survey without this note on there.
So that's be just an automatic.
That's it. Everything, any surveyor recording a boundary surveyor will get this note put on their plat to get it
And
recorded.
it's up to them to understand how
Yeah,
it relates to their
now,
property.
if they decide to do it by legal description and not do a plat, there's no note shown. A lawyer can write a legal description all day.
So
Somebody wants
say you're not gonna totally fix the problem.
Right.
I've
There's-
got
there-
50 acres and I want to
That's
sell
right.
my
Say
10.
somebody wants to deed
Go-
off
go
5
out.
acres to their son and does it by legal description. There's no way that they would ever know this. Now, when they come to get a permit, they'll find out. But, you know, at least we're making an attempt to identify all these requirements on a plat. And that's already, we already had the authority to do that in our ordinances.
And to add to what James said, these notes are not telling anybody that they have to do anything today. They're saying, if you buy this piece of property, you need to be aware that there may be certain things going on. If you're walking through a creek and you're about 2 feet deep in water, you might need to get a permit to cross that if you want your driveway on the other side. If you're looking at a slope that's steep as a horse's face, you might need a critical lot plan. If you're standing there and water's overflowing the banks of the creek, you may be in a flood zone. Now, I'm saying some things that may be obvious, but a lot of times when you're standing out there at a sale or looking at a piece of property, these things, you don't see them. If it's been dry, everything looks great. If everything's been cleaned off, everything looks good. But sometimes things show up later. But this is just saying there may be some things that you might want to be aware of. It's a cautionary note. It's an awareness note. That's just kind of the intent to eliminate that. Well, we didn't know about that. We didn't see that. We're not going to get all of it, but it will, I think, take care of a large percentage of it. And that's my opinion. So.
Okay. So we'll reconvene our meeting that we said we would have with that group and then bring it back to this board.
Yeah, that'll be okay. I wasn't able to be in the meeting that they're referencing with all those people because I was down in the meeting about the garbage. But the thing that kind of intrigues me there is y'all said, when Commissioner Franklin asked you if anybody had done it, you said Sullivan County. I'd like to explore that. The Sullivan County attorney.
And I think,
is on the
Yeah,
board.
I'll send you the email that Chris
I-
sent, which he did the research for us and reached
Who
out
did-
to
who
some,
did it?
Christopher in our planning, reached
I
out
wanna-
to other planners.
Y'all
to
are
see.
missing what I'm saying, guys.
You wanna see how it was
I want to
implemented.
talk to how Sullivan County did it.
Yeah, and I'm not asking for no signature block at all, so make that clear.
I understand.
The
I
signature,
can also envision the Register of Deeds requiring, people coming in to record it and had this on there. If somebody brings a deed in, like I just said, I sold the mayor 10 acres, and she says, I can't record this until you get that on a plat.
yeah, and we're gonna cover that that'll be covered for the legal description.
Guys,
That's
let me cut to the chase here. you can only do what state law and federal law allows you to do. So just going in and saying, we'll do it.
Yeah, I'm covered on this, and we meet and we'll go over that, but I've got legal authority in our ordinance.
I want to talk to Sullivan County. See, if they've done it, we'll model it and do it here.
Okay.
There,
So let me ask one more question. So I was thinking a while ago when he asked that question, you said nobody in the state's done it yet. They've been thinking about doing it, but nobody's done it. But you're telling me that Sullivan County has done it?
No, sir, they didn't do it.
Oh, okay,
They
okay.
proposed. Now, this is my understanding from
Gotcha.
speaking, as James said, with Christopher Lawless.
Okay, that's because I thought you said nobody's done it yet. They're thinking about
Correct.
it, but.
It has been,
Okay.
the process, as we understand it, it was started, and there was a lot of discussion.
Got it, okay. All right. Yes, sir?
you know, all the good land gets developed first. And most of the time in cities and the county, I mean, it's just natural. If you've got a lot of land out there and there's not anything on it, you're gonna pick and choose the flat land, the beautiful, nice, no problems. That's been built on for years. And so what's happening, I think, is, you know, some of the best land isn't being cut up now. Some of the land people didn't want to develop is being cut up now. And that's where we're getting these challenges. And that coupled with Wilson County kind of being what it is. So, you know, I applaud the effort to try to do this. I just, I gotta know that it's legal before we take a leap.
Well, and I want to be clear, I'm not opposed to this, not at all. But I do want to say something to you from the meeting that we had last time, guys. Y'all talked about the developers are on board. We had one developer in that meeting. And if we don't follow this correctly, he agreed to do some things. But he's not, we got
That's why it needs to be.
Well,
He don't need to agree, it needs to be across the board, and we need to have legal authority, and I agree.
And where I'm headed with this is, if we don't do this properly, and we don't do it legally, we may get sued. And we've got a suit in the county right now where we went to 80,000 square feet. And developers, 4 of them sued us, because they didn't like it. So that could happen here. We've got to be on solid ground to defend it. I'm not opposed to it at all. I think it sounds like a good idea. And I know y'all done your homework on it, but I thought I heard Sullivan County had done it. Now I hear.
Knoxville,
that they just
I'm pretty sure
talked about
Knoxville had done it, but they're self-imposed, they are their own regulated.
Home rule,
Right.
their home rule.
it. Yeah, but they're still subject to state and federal
Yeah,
law.
right.
Their
Is
home
it
rule
Big
comes from
Four?
the state
Right.
authority.
What is it, Knoxville, Metro Davidson County, Chattanooga, Memphis. They're kind of in a little different.
They're over.
They are,
100,000.
but they're
They
all
are doing it.
subject to a higher authority.
understand.
They have no independent authority
Understand.
whatsoever. So that's what, we gotta track it back up the chain, and I think y'all have done that from what you've told me this morning. But the fact nobody's done this yet, out of 95 counties, 20 counties, 4 big counties, whatever, do we wanna be the, never mind, I won't say that.
But so I don't need to schedule our meeting then until you talk to Sullivan County, right?
Well, is it gonna do any good to talk to Sullivan? I thought y'all said.
Well, I think we need to meet with the county attorney and go over what is legal and how the state interpreted the law and how MTAS interpreted our ordinance on how we got a legal authority, without question. That's what we need to discuss.
All right.
And then we'll move forward with implementing a policy.
And I'm fine with that, but let me remind everybody here that if we don't do it right and we get sued, the name on the defendant line will be Wilton County.
Understood.
It won't be MTAS, it won't be CTAS.
Right.
It won't be the state of Tennessee, it'll be us.
And we've got good
And you know who
definition
us
by law.
is if we get
Road.
sued?
Yeah, I got it.
Me,
Right, yes, sir.
okay? So, I want to be sure about it, guys.
I
I'm not
agree.
trying to discourage you, but if it's a good idea today, it'll be a good idea a
Right,
month from now.
I agree. And I've been trying to get this isn't brand new. I've been fighting for this since I was a director. So,
You have.
No, I think it's great, man. When people come in here and buy something, the welcome we're giving them is information. If we pull it off, it's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to the new neighbors,
And
if
I
we can
have-
do this, we
Yeah.
do it legally.
James, anything else to come before the body?
I think that's all I got.
Okay, your motion to approve your report?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Thank you.
Anything else to come before the body today? Mr. Evans, you just come to be here today. Any words of wisdom you want to share with us?
No, sir.
Glad to have you here then. One more motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Okay,